We're concentrating on the worst first, the public safety threats, the national security threats. And just yesterday, in the last 24 hours, ICE arrested over 308 serious criminals. Some of them were murderers. Some of them were rapists. Some of them raped a child. Some were a sexual assault of a child. So ICE is doing their job, and they're prioritizing just as the president said they would. So the ICE is performing excellent right now out in the field, and they're going to continue every day.
I love it. I love that they're not backing off, and I love that they're having Tom Homan on the news every day to counter all the filthy commie propaganda. Joining me now, a couple dudes who know a little bit about this stuff. Victor Avila, retired ICE special agent. I bet he's ready to come back into the game at this point. And Julio Rosas, national correspondent with The Blaze. Victor, be honest, you coming out of retirement, you've got to be tempted.
I'm ready for the call. I'll tell you that, Jesse. They call me, I'm ready. I was with Tom Homan a couple of days ago in Washington, D.C. I just got back yesterday, and this doesn't surprise me at all. These individuals and our ICE agents, HSI special agents, by the way, are also joining forces with ICE ERO officials to conduct these. Basically, what it is right now is they're doing fugitive ops, which is individuals that have been identified, that have been ordered removed. That's why he's talking about convicted murderers, convicted rapists. These are convicted hardcore criminals that are illegal walking around in our communities. And we have a jacket on them. We have what we call a packet on them, and they're going after them and locating them and removing them.
Okay, Julio, what were we doing before? I mean, I know Joe Biden and his administration had a little bit of a different policy when it came to illegal immigration, but what Victor just said is so simple. We have a felon, a child rapist, we have a jacket on him, we know where he is, and they just weren't going to get him?
Well, it was a little complicated because Alejandro Mayorkas, he basically change who ICE prioritized in getting. And so that's why they had to meet certain criteria, extra criteria, in order to send out officers to go get them. So yes, there were similar things happening, but it was happening on a much smaller scale than what is going to be happening now under the Trump administration. And that's why, when you see places like in sanctuary cities, like up in Boston or Denver, and you have the sanctuary city policies, ICE was unable to basically push back against those policies because Alejandro Mayorkas's DHS wasn't going to allow them to do that. And so now, with Trump putting his team in, they are going to be more forceful and say, hey, we're the federal government. You don't tell us what to do. This is a public safety threat. This is a public safety concern. So let us into the jails so that we can pick them up. You don't release them without letting us know. Because, and as Homan has said, if they're not going to let them into the jails, then they're going to go out into the neighborhoods. And so, yes, they're going to have the target. But guess what? Now, if they find other illegal immigrants that are in the same house or in the same neighborhood, they're going to be going back home too, because now those people are also now a priority as opposed to they weren't before.
Victor, I'm concerned about the danger, and I realize, look, any kind of law enforcement is good. It's inherently dangerous. You have to mix it up with scumbags every day. It's a dangerous job. But as Julio just mentioned, they have to go into these neighborhoods, and they're in these neighborhoods for a reason. That's where they feel most comfortable, most welcome. Are you worried about turning on the news one night and seeing some ICE agent that has been hurt, God forbid?
Absolutely. It's top of mind. It's security and safety for the officers, for the community. That's why a lot of these locations, if you remember, it wasn't under the Biden administration, but it actually was all the way back to the Obama administration that I was personally affected, where I could go and pick up an individual. I couldn't go to a school. I couldn't go to a courthouse. I couldn't go to a church, a hospital. That is now all out the window. We are going to be able now to go to these places where they were seeking refuge. And I personally was about to arrest a drug dealer at a school who also happened to be illegally present. And I was ordered to stand down because of the Obama policy. That is going to now go out the window and not exist. But the reason why I tell you this is because these are more controlled areas where we want to effectively do this enforcement. It's more controlled. It's better safety for everyone if we do it this way rather than do it in the street and public areas where there's more risk for the surrounding people.
Julio, they're talking about schools and churches. You know, they came out and said, well, you're not going to be able to hide in school. You're not going to be able to hide in church anymore. And I'm all game for that. Go to the hospitals, too, and get all these people out of there. But how do you handle that optics-wise so the American people don't freak out?
You remind them of names like Lincoln Riley and Rachel Moran. I mean, you remind them why we are in this position in the first place. We're in this position in the first place where all of this is necessary because the Biden-Harris administration opened the border, allowed this invasion into our country for years. And they try to hide it with this shell game through the CBP One app and the CHNV program. That, you know, allowing people to fly directly in so they don't have the bad optics of these mass people at the border, which it still ended up happening just on a different scale. That's why this is necessary. This is why Trump won. The American people saw the disastrous effects that had on the nation, and they said, no, we're not going to allow this anymore. And so, yes, like it's unfortunate that it's come to this, but this is about the safety and security of the country. This is about being able to have a prosperous country and getting rid of gangs like Tren de Aragua, which I just cannot stress enough, did not have a foothold in our country prior to 2021. It was, no one had even heard of it. People still don't know how to pronounce its name because that's how foreign it still is in some regards. So I know that there's going to be pushback against this. I know that the media is going to do everything they can to shift the narrative about it. But this is not just happening because Trump wants to be mean to brown people. It's happening because the migrants themselves are victims. It's because American citizens have become victims of this. And it's trying to prevent future victims like Lincoln Riley.
Eric Adams went on Tucker Carlson. This is what he had to say.
I spoke with the president himself. I spoke with the president first. Then the president came here to New York City. The governor and I sat down with the president. And I said, Mr. President, I'm not sure what they're telling you about this problem, but this is a terrible problem that's playing out on the ground that we need to fix our border. And we need to just stop allowing people to come into the country with no destiny.
And so you tell the president and his aides this, and what do they say?
Basically, be a good Democrat, Eric.
Be a good Democrat?
That was the basic overall theme. One of his aides told me that, listen, this is like a gallstone. It'll pass.
Whoa. It's like a gallstone, it'll pass.
Yes. It'll hurt now, but it'll pass.
Well, you pee it out then. Right. Why do you have to?
Well said.
Victor, so the Democrat Party from top to bottom is simply committed to keeping the border open, and being a good Democrat means opening it and not saying anything about it. Do I have that right?
Yeah, because they don't really care. They don't care about Americans. They care about themselves. But here's my concern. And I've been hearing this a little bit, that you're going to hear and from a lot of these Democrat and sanctuary cities that they're willing. We're going to help you. Please, ICE, come and actually do what you have to do. We're not going to impede you. We might even support you. But then actually on the floor, on the ground, in the field, they're not actually getting the help, and they're not opening the door for them to come in. That's going to be a bigger concern for me. Julio mentioned the jails. Well, give us access to Rikers then. You know how many illegal aliens are in there? We already know that the ones that are having contact with criminal justice systems across the country, those are the ones that we want. They're already in a custody. Let's just pick them up there and transfer them from there to our ICE facility and process them out. This is where the rubber meets the road. We don't want to hear words from them anymore. We want to see the action from these sanctuary towns.
Julio, finally, isn't that illegal? I mean, look, Victor's right. You got a bunch of people in Rikers, Cook County Jail. I mean, do you name it? There's all kinds of illegals sitting in there. And I know all these towns are run by a bunch of dirtball commies, but you don't just get to protect them, right? I don't care what policies you pass. You can't violate federal law.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's why, actually today, it's been reported that Trump's DOJ, they're now sending out guidance to their people that say, investigate any state or local official that's going to be impeding our efforts to enforce immigration law, which presumably that will mean pressuring them to actually open up the jails and let them get the targets out and put them into custody instead of, again, releasing them out into the street to commit more crimes. I mean, it's so insane that this has been allowed to happen for a very long time. And it's unfortunate. It is unfortunate that it had to reach this level for the pressure from DC to go out into the rest of the country. But it seems to be going into that direction. And Victor's absolutely right that some of them might have the nice words, but we're gonna have to see what actually happens on the ground. And so I'm looking forward to be able to help report on that and see that firsthand for myself. Just because the most transparent administration in history, the Biden-Harris administration, they completely locked out media from Border Patrol, from DHS. The last time I was with Border Patrol, actually, or with CBP, was in October of 2020, right before the election. That was the last time I had any sort of embed or ride along with them. And of course, they did that because they didn't want people to actually see what was happening. And anytime they did allow that to happen, the few times it was very tightly controlled. So I'm looking forward to seeing progress on this.
Yeah, me too. Fellas, be good. Come back soon. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.